Variety, the spice of life, and in story-generating games such as RimWorld, it is the name of the game. And, well, what do I mean by variety? If you look at other games similar to RimWorld, the arguably better at what RimWorld is trying to do game, Dwarf Fortress, there are unnumberable scenarios in which you can find yourself in that game, all based on a number of things. Individual. People tend to refer to the dwarves, but theoretically everything has its own personality. Has no two dwarves are the same, not just in physical appearance, but in the way they think, the things they like, how they behave, and that's one aspect of it. Like I've told my family a bunch of times, just going on a dwarf, you have his personality and all that I've just mentioned, but also clothes he has, what kind of style, what material they're made of. Does he like the material, condition of the clothes, where he finds himself, what kind of biome it is, what kind of material is his home made out of, what kind of animals live around him, and in case of, something like RimWorld, what kind of weaponry does he have? Does he have swords and shields? Does he have guns and so forth? Which is essentially what I'm getting at. RimWorld, in some regards, is moderately good, not, Dwarf Fortress good, but passable. But in other regards, Dwarf Fortress just, or rather, I said Dwarf Fortress has a lot of complexity, and, I'd like RimWorld to get to that complexity, but that's probably years, if not a decade or more off, assuming they, develop it that much. But in certain regards, RimWorld is severely lacking in a lot of the aspects that, in some regards, would be nice to see, but in other regards, frankly, is a little strange to not see. I've mentioned the fact that you're in a space game that you can't go to space in, which, going on, where you live, there are, nice biomes, and stuff, but there are a couple that are missing that are a little strange that they're missing. There are no grasslands. There are no sort of savanna-like areas, really warm, dry, but not dry enough to be a desert, and so on and so forth. And going in regards of animals, the fact that there is no aquatic life, you telling me I'm on a planet with, as much water as RimWorld's planets can have, where it's either up to half or almost the entire planet covered in water, and I can't go fishing? Seems a little strange. And, in regards to, what clothes does the guy have, or even in personality, which many of these aspects intertwine and really make a story, which is the entire point of the game. Imagine, for instance, going with one way you can, just one aspect that can add complexity. Imagine if you had treats, or hell, maybe even split this up into, cookies, cakes, candies, sodas, things like that. And imagine you're you're on the ice sheet. You're in the northernmost place you can get on the map. You're starving. You're dying. You're begging Randy, send you help in any way, preferably food. And he decides to rain on top of you. Not just those things, but specifically Christmas themed candies and stuff. Basically, Christmas candy. Hundreds of cases of it, Just something as simple as that. Adding in, with, the candies, sure, and drinks and stuff of that nature, junk foods. Just going on one aspect of it. But, imagine if it was, had that, and then you had holiday specific, or more accurately, ritual specific, essentially treats specifically that, you stockpile them, you serve them out at holidays and stuff. And imagine if also on top of that, you had different styles, depending on your styles that your culture has. They would have different styles. The Christian is Christmas candy, morbid is Halloween candy, so on and so forth. And going in that, imagine if you had more crops, the rice field meme is fine. But the fact that for some bizarre reason wheat, or hell, cigarettes, so some aspects of it, I mean, really all I can say is look at Dwarf Fortress, and a lot of people compare the two games and are like, oh, why would you buy RimWorld if you have Dwarf Fortress? RimWorld is a science fiction game with all the bells and whistles of a science fiction game, whereas Dwarf Fortress, in Dwarf Fortress it wouldn't be unusual to see a guy smoking out of a pipe, smoking tobacco out of a pipe. In RimWorld, sure, that can happen, but you also have things like genuine cigarettes, or hell, people like drugs go fucking create, magic mushrooms, which are conspicuously absent from the game. Or, going into other aspects, imagine a person who, they grew up on a glitter world, and they find, good world, they find the concept of killing, eating, and then wearing the skin of an animal, or hell, maybe even plants. Imagine a person, they find that all disgusting, all of it. Or, on top of that, add in the counterpart kind of personality as well, where you have a person who finds the idea of living in a concrete, to them, tomb, one might say a concrete jungle for those who are a little bit more, used to it, and a bit more favorable to it, give it some pizzazz, but, something as simple as adding something like that. And not just adding that, imagine the glitter world person being forced to wear like animal skins, begging for something, and then, someone who doesn't like the animal skin thing being forced to be in the North Pole and having candy situation. Something like that can't happen in it can't happen in Dwarf Fortress, but it can't happen in RimWorld. When theoretically, it would be interesting if it could, and based on what RimWorld is trying to be, it's, the complexity alone of Dwarf Fortress, it's better than RimWorld and all that, but RimWorld has opportunities that Dwarf Fortress can't. It can tell stories in ways that Dwarf Fortress can't. And the fact that certain aspects, imagine a game like RimWorld, or RimWorld, that is, as complex as Dwarf Fortress. There are hundreds of animal species. You could have people with, there are dozens of different types of every kind of weapon you can imagine. You can have clothes made of every material known to man, including the science fiction ones. All of it. And I really do think that, a lot of people look at, I've noticed a difference between RimWorld and Dwarf Fortress's fan base. Dwarf Fortress goes full-blown in their fan base on the story aspect. Sure, there's all kinds of things you could do mechanically and gameplay-wise. And hell, I'd even say the games themselves do this a little bit, where Dwarf Fortress, it's about the story. But in RimWorld and amongst their fan base, it is viewed, sure, there's the story, but there's also a lot more mechanical gameplay aspects to it. And I think that really hurts the story aspect of it. You know, like I said, Dwarf Fortress is a fantasy game. It would be a little strange to have Christmas candy or cigarettes or machine guns or anything like that. Space travel, at least space travel as in, science fiction stuff. And RimWorld fills that gap. But in the game's great as it is. I would really like for for the console to get the remainder of the DLCs, but it's great as it is. That said, there are a lot of things, you can't feed monkeys bananas. Jungles where, you can't pull a full-blown, you can't be on a deserted island all by yourself, isolated from the entirety of the world. You can't do stuff like that. And I think that, Dwarf Fortress pulled it off. They pull it off well, and I do believe that RimWorld can pull it off. But that'll need time and stuff. Frankly, if you played mods, if you played with a lot of different sort of mods that add a lot of variety, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And feel free to commune amongst each other and stuff. In the comments, I'll try if I see it. I'm not great with technology, but if I see it, I'll try to comment and stuff. Assuming I'm alive, damn meteors and all that. But what's your thought on this? Do you think I got a point, or am I just blowing fucking? Am I blowing psychite smoke up your ass? Comment if you so please. See you in the next video, I guess. Probably go on RimWorld again, but see ya.